Hello, guys, gals, and non binary pals, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It started with Emily Doe. This video is going to be a little bit different and a little bit more personal. And I already have other videos planned after this that make sense and fit in. So, in this video, I'm going to be diving into some statistics, but like very surface level, because I'm going to be sharing a personal story, as you can probably tell by whatever I decided to title this. So, please, I would like to start out with issuing a trigger warning. If you are triggered by mention of sexual assault or the legal system or, harassment and stuff like that, then please click off this video and practice self-care. Also, if you do decide to stay and you would like any resources, I have linked the RAIN website down below. They are an excellent resource, and my inbox, it started with emilydoe@gmail.com, is always open, and I will provide you with more resources and support if need be. So, also, I would also just like to say that since I am opening myself up like this, that please can we remember that I am human too, and to, not be a dick. So, with that, I guess I'm going to get into this because I've been putting this off, but I also really want to share this, so no more putting it off. Let's just do it. So when I was either 12 or 13, some of the details are a little fuzzy. Some things I don't fully remember because I have PTSD, and that messes with your memory. Also, a lot of times our memories are unreliable to begin with, so piling a disorder on top of that fucks with your memory a bit doesn't help. So, I was either 12 or 13. I was in the 8th grade, so I believe I was 13, but that doesn't matter. Sometimes I hyperfixate on certain details. So, but I attended a small charter school, and I remember in the middle of the school year, there was a new student who joined my class. Since it was a charter school, how we did it was block scheduling. You were typically you were in 4 classes a day, for like 90 minutes or so every day. And then you had 4 classes, and then at the second semester, you switched and were in a new 4 classes. And they were like different classes based on since I was a band kid, I was with all the band kids in all my classes, typically. And so this new student was a band kid as well, I believe. And so he joined in. He and I became friends on Facebook, and we started messaging. I figured he was new, I would be nice, and then the messages started getting a little creepy. He talked about me running away, and then him hiding me in his basement, and that his dad would be okay with it. I think he talked about having a crush on me and everything. He gave me a necklace at one point, and it was sweet, but I wasn't interested. And so he took a liking to me, and I did not reciprocate those feelings. But I was also 13, and I didn't know how to, portray that in a, healthy way that got the point across. Because, we were kids. It's how kids are. So, So we'd message back and forth. We had the same friend group because pretty much all of our, friends were in band, and he was also in band. And so I believe at one point I rejected him. It was what it was. But he was good friends with my ex-boyfriend from the 6th grade and another one of my guy friends, and so they'd hang out all the time. And I remember there was one time in gym class, so the building that this charter school was shared a building with an elementary school, and so the gym had a curtain that came down and cut the gym in half, and so the water fountain was on the other side of that curtain. So I had gym in the morning before the elementary school was there and using the gym, but the curtain would sometimes be down, and so we only had use of half the gym. And so the curtain was down, I was getting a drink of water, and he came to that side. No one could see us, it was just us two on that side, and he tried to corner me. But then either the gym teacher called us back or another student came over, I don't fully remember, but that happened, and so I was kind of weary about being alone with him because it just set off alarms in my head. But there's not, and usually like, I kind of figured, like, we're at school, what could really happen? And so then either a week or two later, not too much later, I was running late to band class, and it was in the basement of the school. So like the school had 3 floors, and the charter school, which is a middle and high school, got to occupy the basement and the 3rd floor, and then like a small portion of the 1st floor, and then the elementary school got the most of the 1st floor and the 2nd floor. And so band was in the basement, and I was running late. For what reason, I have no idea. And then suddenly he comes up behind me, and I'm just trying to get to band. Well, we're alone in the hallway, and so he pushes me up against the lockers that are there, and he shoves me down, and he pulls down his pants, and it's really fuzzy. I've had flashbacks had nightmares of him pulling out his genitals and shoving them in my face. But again, it's very hazy and I don't fully remember. But that is what I believe to have happened. So very, very traumatizing, to say the least. And I don't really remember how I got up and into the band room, but I did end up getting up and I got into the band room, and I spent the rest of the day feeling very numb. Like, it was all just a blur. I went through the motions. I believe band was 3rd block, so I didn't have too much left of the day after that. And so I just kind of did it. And then I came home and I felt numb. Now, I don't remember telling my mom, but I do remember that at one point, and this kind of will make sense a little bit later in the story or whatever, but my mom told my friend's mom that she felt awful because she didn't believe me when I told her. And I mean, I don't put any blame or anything on her. Like, who wants to believe that their kid got assaulted at school? No one. So I just kind of buried it down, and I didn't really talk about it too much. I just tried to avoid him at all costs. I wouldn't talk to him. And then eventually that year, so the middle schoolers had to eat their lunch in the cafeteria, but the high schoolers had open lunch. So I remember at one point, around the end of the school year, like starting in the spring, that we had assigned seating based on alphabetical order. And because our lunch seats were in alphabetical order, he was sitting right across from me, and he would just stare at me the entire time and smirk. So eventually I would sneak down into the basement and eat lunch with some of my high school friends. And I will say I had one teacher who saw me down there all the time, and he would comment on it often. He would say, "Aren't you supposed to be in the cafeteria?" And I would say yes, and he would just say, carry on. And I really, really appreciate him not making me go back to the cafeteria, because I couldn't eat. I was frozen, and it just was awful, just having to sit across from him and having him stare at me like that. And so then the next year comes, and I still really hadn't told anybody or talked about it. And then I hear that one of my best friends at the time had come forward and said that he assaulted her. And so at that point, I told her what had happened. And she said, hey, you should talk to someone about this. You don't have to do anything, but you should talk to someone. And so I went to our school counselor, who was so great. I went to him and talked to him about a lot of stuff. And so I told him. And then the district attorney had to get involved, because it was a minor reporting sexual assault, and he's a mandated reporter. And so then from that point, I decided that I was going to stand alongside my friend, and we were both going to report to the police what happened. Now, I don't remember talking to the police. I barely remember anything from getting ready for court. The only instance I remember is hearing from our attorney that we had that my ex-boyfriend was testifying as a character witness for him. And that was a low blow. That really hurt, because me and this guy were still really good friends. And I just remember him saying, well, I hang out with him. I don't think he would do that. Like, I know how he is. We're friends. And that just hurt me really, really bad. Because I knew what I had been through. And I knew that I wasn't lying. But I vaguely remember being talked to about how the trial was going to go. I remember I had this bandana that my best friend from then to this day gave me, and I carried that with me when I went up on the stand to testify. I don't remember testifying. I just remember looking anywhere besides where he sat and shaking as I walked out. And I remember sitting in like the little waiting room waiting to testify. And I remember the sentencing. The most he was going to be given was 6 months of counseling. That's it, which I thought was not enough, because he had done it to multiple girls. There was a third girl who initially came forward, but her parents ended up moving out of state and not allowing her to testify because they just wanted her to have a fresh start, which I don't blame them. So it was just me and her. But then also eventually another girl came forward in the middle of the trial who didn't want to testify, who said that he had actually raped her. And I believe it. But she didn't want to come forward, and I respect that wholeheartedly. So this was someone who saw no issue in his actions, who had done it multiple times, and I fully believe would have and has done it again. So then he wasn't charged with sexual assault. He was charged with disorderly conduct, and he was given his 6 months of counseling. So technically it was a win. It has never felt like one, ever. I remember too, as we were leaving, or in between me and her testifying, I remember being in the room with her when she testified and explained what she did, or what he did to her, because I wanted to be there to support her, and she was in the room for me when I was testifying. But I remember that his attorney called our school principal to be a character witness for him, And I remember after the trial was all said and done, he came up to both of us and he said, I didn't want to do it, but I was required to by law. And like, just know that I believe you guys and I stand with you guys, and I'm ashamed that this happened at my school. And he hugged us both. And I just couldn't believe that he was called for that. Like, I wasn't there when or if he was questioned. I don't know if he was. I wasn't in the room for most of it because I couldn't handle it. But he was then kicked out of the charter school, and I thought that was that. However, I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, I don't know how I saw this, but I saw that he was dating some girl. And I remember talking with my friends at the time saying, should I tell her? What do I do? Like, I felt so conflicted because I felt like if I said anything, I'd be ruining his life. And then I also thought to myself, well, why should that matter? He ruined mine to an extent. And so, one of my friends at the time was like, hey, I don't see an issue in you telling her. Like, she can make her own decisions, but if it would make you feel better, and I think that you should then do it, if not for her sake, for your sake, then tell her. And so I messaged this girl and I told her, and she was like, I believe you. I understand this. He hasn't done anything that I'm aware of, but thank you for telling me. And so that was nice. Her and I became good friends for a while. She eventually broke up with him, which, good. And then I thought my little saga with him ended there, but it didn't. When I was 18 going on 19, I started working at my local Renaissance fair. And everything was fine that first year, but that second year, one of my former best friends from middle school told me, or like, her and I were, because she also worked there. Like, we hadn't been close for a while, but we were still friends, and we worked together. We were co-workers. And so we had a work party coming up because it was almost the end of the season. And she had told me, hey, I just want to let you know I'm dating this guy. Would you be okay if I brought him to this party? She's like, I don't want to make you uncomfortable because you have more of a right to be there than he does, but I would really like to bring him because he's my boyfriend. And I froze and I choked up, and because I often tend to put other people's feelings before my own, I said, that's okay, you can bring him. And she did, because I said it was okay. And he stared at me, and every time I could feel him looking at me, I couldn't handle it. I started having a panic attack, and one of my other friends had to go outside with me and sit and just let me vent and cry. And then I thank him for sitting with me and doing that for me until I felt okay to go in and deal with everything. And then also during that summer, I was in the middle of a falling out with my best friend at the time, and she had invited our other friend that was dating this guy, and so we were in a band. We had a gig, and as soon as they showed up, like, I started having a panic attack because I didn't know he was going to be there. With the work party, I at least knew that he was going to be there, so I could at least try to mentally prepare, but it caught me so off guard seeing him without expecting to see him. And my former best friend just said, he's not looking at you, suck it up, like, we got shit to do. And I just want to say that is a terrible response to someone dealing with that. So I did suck it up in the end, but afterwards, when I got home, I broke down so hard. And then this last year, I wasn't working for the Renaissance Fair, but I was still invited to the work party, and I came, and he was there, and I avoided him like the plague. And so this has kind of been all over the place. I feel like it's not helpful because this is the only time I had been assaulted that I actually reported, and I don't remember most of it. There is so much that I blocked out just because my brain cannot handle it. That's why I have PTSD, because I just cannot handle the full weight of these memories. And so, to bring this back to the educational thing, I just want to... So now we'll go to Statistics Corner while I try to get back some comedy and lightheartedness to end this on a good note. But, well, maybe comedy is not the right word, but anyway. So, I got some statistics off of the RAIN website, and so 94% of women who are raped or assaulted experience symptoms of PTSD. I am part of that 94%. 13% of women who are raped or assaulted attempt suicide, which I completely kind of forgot this part in the story, but after the trial was all done, like not too long afterwards, I tried to kill myself because I was depressed. It was hard to deal with, and I still deal with PTSD that is mostly untreated. I was diagnosed. I still didn't remember a whole lot, so there wasn't much I could talk about. I also have depression, so in therapy we focused on my depression, and that's that. So I've been trying to navigate all of this without help from a therapist because I can't afford therapy, but it is what it is. America's great. Also, 39% of rapes are committed by an acquaintance, and the majority of children and teens know their perpetrator, which was true in my case. And out of every 1,000 sexual assaults, 995 perpetrators will walk free. So, yeah. Also, most crimes aren't reported, and even though we technically won, it never felt like a victory. So I guess that's where I'm going to end this story. I will say that I have been assaulted and actually raped more than once, so I have more stories like this, but this is one of the ones that hits me the most, to bring it back home on that personal level. When the Stanford rapist trial was going on, and the inspiration with the name of Emily Doe, now Chanel Miller, now that we know her name, what really struck a chord with me with that case was that he was charged or sentenced to 6 months in jail. And that just brought all of this stuff right back to the forefront of my mind. And I often think about this. And I often, I don't know. It's something I have to live with. And, I'm not the only one who lives with something like this. Most women will be living with something like this. But, anyway, because he holds no power over me, and I am okay, and I'm a functioning member of society. I'm doing great things. I can be okay, and I will get past this someday. It's a long journey, and that's okay too. So, next video I'm going to be uploading is either going to be about false reporting or survivor self-care. I think I'm going to do survivor self-care because right now I'm going to go practice some self-care because that's necessary. But now to move on to the normal YouTube things, make sure to leave a like if this video impacted you in any way. I hope it makes you angry in a sense, just because, I don't know, justice wasn't really served, and it's a harsh reality that we live with that I desperately, desperately want to change. It shows in my analytics that the majority of people, like around 75% of people who watch my videos, aren't subscribed. So, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more videos from me. Pretty soon I'm going to do another Onision video, which is good because then we just get to make fun of a sexual predator, and that's always a great time. So, yeah, so like, subscribe, leave a comment if you are so inclined to do so. Again, I would like to remind you that I am human, and this is, in times where I tell stories like this, my comment section is going to be a safe space, and if you're going to send hatred or, just really nasty things, I will delete your comment. And fuck you if you decide to do that. So, I think that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening to my story, and I will be happy to see you in the next video, where hopefully I can, just make jokes at predators' expenses. Some fun, lighthearted stuff. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful night.